Ever pondered the impact of microplastics on your health? Buckle up, for a groundbreaking study has unveiled a startling revelation. Microplastics, those minute particles that sneak into our bodies, have been linked to increased risks of heart attacks and mortality. In the realm of health and wellness, we often focus on things like diet, exercise, and mental health. But how often do we consider the invisible enemies, like microplastics? These tiny particles, often smaller than a grain of rice, are found everywhere, from our oceans to the air we breathe, and yes, even in our bodies. But what exactly are these microplastics, and how do they end up in our bodies? Well, they originate from larger plastic debris that degrade into smaller and smaller pieces. They can also come from synthetic fibers shed from our clothes or tiny beads in beauty products. Once they're in the environment, they can make their way into our food chain and ultimately into our bodies. Now, you may be wondering, just how harmful can these tiny particles be? According to a recent study, quite a lot. The research found that individuals with higher levels of microplastics in their bodies had an elevated risk of heart attack and mortality. The culprit? Inflammation. These tiny particles can trigger an inflammatory response in our bodies, which over time can lead to heart disease. So, what does this mean for us? It's simple. To protect our hearts, we need to ditch the microplastics. And how do we do that? By saying no to plastic. Opt for alternatives like glass or stainless steel whenever possible. Choose clothes made of natural fibers, and scrutinize your beauty products for microbeads and choose eco-friendly alternatives. In conclusion, this World Health Day, it's time we broaden our perspective on health and wellness. It's not just about eating right and staying active. It's also about being mindful of the invisible threats, like microplastics, and taking steps to reduce our exposure. So remember, protect your heart, ditch the microplastics. In summary, the key points from this video are: 1. Microplastics, tiny particles found everywhere, can make their way into our bodies and trigger an inflammatory response, leading to heart disease. 1. A recent study found a link between higher levels of microplastics in the body and an increased risk of heart attack and mortality. 1. To protect our hearts, we need to reduce our exposure to microplastics by saying no to plastic and opting for eco-friendly alternatives. Remember, every small action can make a big difference. So let's start today. Protect your heart by saying no to microplastics.